The live stream is about 10 seconds behind real time. It's interesting. I didn't really know what the difference is between when what I'm doing here in real life versus the feed that's going out, but it's about 10 seconds. What in the world? Stupid thing. There we go. Yeah. The peanut butter white bread song. Yes, available for purchase. Let me know if you're interested. Let's see if I have any purchases of it so far. Let's see, here's the stats. I'm pulling up the stats now. I'm looking at it. Going to all-time sales. Nope, zero. Still zero. So the Soul movie, enjoyed it. I thought it was a little too long, but it had a good message. It was very good touching, I think. I disagree. But I didn't want to color you too much. I didn't want to color your thoughts and opinions unnecessarily, right? I'm hopeful that the stream will sort of like level out here. We'll stop getting it so jittery. Well, yeah, it's the song is available for purchase as an album, sure. Coupled with cacti or cactuses, as well as chicken pot pie. All right, well, the audio is fine. I mean, I guess that's something. It should level out here in a second, though, I think. What was I saying? Oh, Soul. Yeah. I disagree. I don't want to shatter everybody's dreams. I like what you said here. You thought it was a little too long. Right? Saw the movie and enjoyed it. That's okay. Personal taste accounts for a lot when it comes to media. And just because somebody else doesn't like something doesn't mean you shouldn't like it. Right? Just because someone else doesn't like something isn't a personal attack on anybody. It's not a criticism of you as an individual. And this is what I think people today, they take things way too seriously, and they see any criticism of something they like as a personal attack on themselves. I don't think you would. I think you're a smart, bright, young individual. When it comes to Soul, I think it was soulless. Ironically, lacking soul was my description when I first saw it. Now, why do I say that? He was real tired. I think the opposite of what he said was true. I've not seen 1917. I don't generally watch a ton of war movies. I'm not a fan of them, of the experience that they put me through, especially for me post getting post-traumatic stress disorder. I haven't relished the idea of seeing such a film, but that's okay. Maybe I'll go and watch it at some point. Like there's Saving Private Ryan. I would never go back and watch that again. It's hard for me to watch that stuff. Like last night I watched a film I had seen before again, Dredd, Judge Dredd adaptation. And that was a little tough for me to take. But I did make it through it, so it's apparently doable. What is going on? Well, I was talking about Soul, that's right. Which it fits into what we're talking about today, because it is, of course, a Disney property. First of all, I found Soul to be personally, I could not decipher the message of Soul. I didn't quite understand what it was. It didn't seem very clear to me. Where the messages of other things, other Pixar movies are more explicit or more easily deciphered, I couldn't make heads nor tails of Soul. And I thought by the time I got to the end, I was just kind of like, I didn't think there was anything that stood out for me. But personal taste accounts for a lot. If you enjoyed something, just because someone comes along and says, well, actually, here's why I didn't like it, or here's why it's stupid, don't just accept their opinion. Now, there's been things that I've liked that I've gone back and rewatched after having tastes change and things of that nature, and I didn't like it as much. But generally, that didn't happen very often. Yeah, there were different messages throughout the whole movie, and I think there were unintended messages, such as the sanctity of life. Not a very good one, especially when you think about like some sort of pre-existence of the soul or something, that it exists apart from the body as some sort of entity and exists before the body. That's certainly not Christian doctrine. It kind of makes in that sense, if you think about it from a spiritual point of view, the ability for souls to enter another person's body in some sort of possession makes the body nothing but a container, right? Which is a very dualistic or Gnostic idea. This idea that matter is interchangeable or evil or holds no spiritual significance, and all that matters is the spirit. And dualists and Gnostics went so far as to say that matter was evil. But without the biblical message is that there's an importance to the body, right? The Bible describes the body as the temple of the Lord. The body as the temple. 1 Corinthians 6:19 rather. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, glorify God with your body. Now, that's referring in that passage to sexual sins. But it's showing the importance of the body, right? If your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and you're called to treat your body with respect, one can look at the story of Daniel and his choosing to eat healthy foods rather than the foods prescribed to him by his Babylonian captors. I would also see evidence. So there's more than that, just that. But in Soul, because the body is just a container, they can enter whichever they want. So from a spiritual point of view, it's really muddled, but it also has the unintended idea of suggesting that a life has worth. Not even that. At what point? I guess it doesn't really show. I don't know, but at what point does it kind of show the soul entering the body? You see, this is why it's sort of like all these metaphysics and all of these things just don't make any sense. And when you're thinking of it from that perspective, and the story isn't good enough to clip along, like no one's questioning Inside Out, right? No one's sitting there watching Inside Out and thinking like, that's not how the brain works. I don't think there's little people running around in your brain like that. But it's not meant to be serious. But in this one, something about it just doesn't have those same connection points. It could be the characters aren't as interesting or what. Man, that's some terrible jumping around. Anyways, let's see what you've been saying. Did I watch the Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd or the more recent one? I watched the more recent one, and then I started Judge Dredd, which I hadn't seen for many years, with Stallone, and then I fell asleep, so I didn't finish it. Let's see. I also don't really like the protagonist that much because he seemed really selfish and self-absorbed for most of the movie, and he doesn't really learn a lesson. His lesson, I don't think, was very clear, right? In a traditional screenplay, he would have gone back to being a teacher and saw the value of that. But in this, we don't really get that. And I don't think there's a clear, distinct message at the end. It felt just really like somebody wrote a screenplay and like, oh, this is so awesome, man. This is so great, dog. And then they rushed it out without really thinking everything through, which isn't a great idea. In a story dealing with the metaphysics of the soul and pre-existence and post-existence. And honestly, I didn't have much hope going into it that it would be any good. I don't have much faith in Disney or Pixar in general anymore. So I might be a little biased, but I don't know. I tend to go into Disney stuff with really low expectations, and they don't have to do that much. Because of that, they don't have to do that much to impress me. Do I like the Justice League? I don't know, they're okay. I prefer my Justice League with Martian Manhunter, as he's one of my favorite. I don't know, one of my favorite characters, but a character that I like. So his removal, I'm not a fan of in the modern post-New 52 world. Oh, the music was enjoyable. I do remember you commenting on the music. Inside Out was good, I agree. I actually read an article about the directors chose not to show what he chooses to do after because they thought it would be unsatisfying. They want the audience to decide. That's stupid. That's dumb. I think that's dumb. The audience to decide. This is a movie supposedly marketed towards children. The child is thinking about that. I don't know what he learned. It's not clear what he learned, if anything. And so that presents you with a character with very little arc. His arc is that sort of he's willing to sacrifice himself, I guess, barely, in that he's willing to remain dead when he's already died. He's not going to be completely selfish or something. Yeah, I did serve in the Navy. But just to be clear, my post-traumatic stress disorder is not from the Navy. But thank you. I'm proud to have served. Drawing things. I am so hyped with the Snyder Cut coming out. I heard that Martian Manhunter will be in it. Yes, I heard that as well. Yes, I agree. The Martian Manhunter should never have been removed for Cyborg, aka Cryborg. Yeah, it also diminishes the value of the Teen Titans and their backstory by immediately putting Cyborg into the Teen Titans. It's dumb. Cyborg isn't a bad character. He just doesn't belong. He doesn't warrant inclusion in the Justice League. And to me, it seems as if it was not put in there merely because Jeff Johns thought it would be cool or something, but so that they would have a wider array of characters as founding members of the Justice League. As if people were just super bothered by the fact that it had two aliens, a magical created from the sand woman, and a mutant, and one space cop, though. That's probably the bad one. Because Flash is a mutant. He's mutated. And some people say, oh, well, he's access to the Speed Force. That wasn't the intention of the original author. That's something people added later to try to make sense of the magic that they were using. Because, I mean, this is why comic books are stupid in general most of the time, is because they try to go back and I'm going to correct the mistakes of the past that don't make sense. It's like, dude, it's a comic book meant for children. They were just making a cool superhero that could run really fast. It doesn't need to have some sort of scientific reality. You don't need to bring physics into it. Just ignore it. Stupid. It stinks how modern comics are focused on including diversity in characters. I don't read modern comics anymore unless a specific character is in a series. Most comics are left propaganda. I don't know. Well, yes, I think that's true. I don't think they're explicitly so. I think it's a result of many years of that being the major driving force of the media. I don't think it just happened overnight. One can go back to the Bronze Age and look at Neil Adams and what's the other guy's name? Denny O'Neil's work on Green Lantern and Green Arrow, and they can find propaganda type messages in that. So it's not something new. It's just that it's become kind of unbearable now because they're not good storytellers. So if you have a good story, if there's a good story and it's compelling, then you can get past the propaganda aspects of it. But when it's pure propaganda, then it's just jarring and grating and there's no good stories. Let's see. This is why when people try to rope me into these arguments, like, that light is flickering. We'll just turn it off and then turn it back on. Probably need to replace the bulb or something. Try to rope me into these arguments of like the physics of pop culture stuff. I'm just like, why are you wasting your time? What a waste of time. I'm just trying to enjoy something. Well, so I enjoy it. You enjoy it by arguing about the physics of the Flash? It's stupid. Superman would not be able to exist. Of course he wouldn't be able to exist. Anyways, Jonathan says, I think the best comics are the ones who don't meddle too much in politics and remain in the fictional world. Only a few comics were able to make great stories with political aspects. I think there's more to politics than you're thinking. If you're thinking of some sort of explicit, like, agenda-driven message that you disagree with that bothers you, I can understand that. Sometimes those can get really grating. But there's more to politics than you'd think. This idea that, like, oh, well, it's, these stories should be devoid of politics or something. I understand the modern comic and the way that they wield viewpoints in order to mock their opponents and belittle their opponents and dehumanize them. I understand the reaction against that, one might say. But I don't think the reaction that says, take politics out of everything, have no politics. Because what is politics, right? Let's just look up some definitions of politics on that just bastion of conservative thought, the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And we'll see. Politics, the art or science of government. That's number one definition. So that's what you're thinking of, the art or science of government. What exactly, are they advocating for some sort of political form? Like, are they advocating for socialism or communism or something? I think what we're talking is about cultural ideas that find themselves expressed in the art or science of government, in advocation for or against laws. But there's other definitions, right? The fifth definition here in Merriam-Webster, I think, is a valuable one for us to consider. The total complex of relations between people in society. How do people relate to one another? That's another definition of politics. And so therefore everything that's contained within those politics is true. And let's say we're telling a story about a heroic individual willing to sacrifice themselves for an individual. I think a great illustration of, oh man, is it super laggy? Let me know. Did it work? I think it's fixed now. All right. You're thinking more of the modern political comics, but I also think that if done well, comics can have political messages. I think V for Vendetta was decent, and Watchmen had political aspects too. I totally disagree with the political opinions of that crazy man. But I agree, they are done well. But they're not ones I particularly enjoy. I've read Watchmen. Meh. Okay, here's what I'm saying. I think there are some political ideas that have been expressed in media that are good. And when we think about the self-sacrifice of someone, right? Spoilers for 40-year-old films here. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, right? the end of it, Spock willingly sacrifices himself for the good of the many. He decides that the logical choice, the moral choice, because he agrees that he thinks that the logical choice is morality. That's how he governs his philosophy. The moral choice in this case would be to save the many, preservation of life. And, however, the Vulcans are not some sort of regime that would sacrifice someone else for the many. It's a personal choice that he makes. He says the logical choice in this situation, it does not give them license to go out and kill wantonly the few in some sort of service to the many. But he individually chooses that. Well, then what happens, right, is his friends then individually choose that their collective worth and that their free choice that they make as beings with a will to exercise is one that they can choose to save him. The needs, what is it? And Kirk says, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. You can adapt Watchmen and do a very great job. It's a comic. Not everything is adaptable, and I don't think that was media that was going to be very adaptable. So why do it, Now, those things are politics, right? Those are political ideas. Those are how beings relate in the world, in society. In the world of Star Trek, which is being destroyed today by the new Star Trek adaptations, and I plan on making a longer video about why Star Trek can never again be good. Basically, it has to do with the idea that Gene Roddenberry and the people that worked on Star Trek were modernists. They were modernists who believed that man would improve and that the foundational ideas of democracy and liberalism, classical liberalism, would lead to a utopia in which people would be relatively peaceful and that major problems in the world would go away. But people today don't believe that. So Star Trek is built upon this idea of classical liberalism and how it's expressed in modernism. Now, I'm neither a modernist, nor would I agree with some of the classically liberal ideas, I guess, as expressed by people like Roddenberry. Some I would. So for me, it's not like I'm defending it, I'm just explaining it, right? But I like Star Trek. I love Star Trek. Plenty of Star Trek over on this shelf here. One of my favorite media properties. But why is it that these things change? Because if Roddenberry was putting political messages, blunt political messages, is it just that we agree with them that they're okay? Or is it that they're entertaining? The same goes for something like The Twilight Zone. Right? The Twilight Zone often has we call it social messages, but they could be called political messages just as well. Described that way. Political messages. But they're within this realm of science fiction. But is it just because we agree with them? Is that it? That we think, it's acceptable. What it is it's good storytelling. The issue is not whether or not it has politics in it, is it done well? So the criticism should be, well, not that Watchmen is terrible because it has politics in it or political ideas or things that could be described as politics. But was it a well-crafted story? And there's many reasons why I think that today they're not able to tell those good stories in the same way. Yeah, I just don't personally enjoy Watchmen. What I think, and maybe this isn't the intended message of the ending, but it really is a nihilistic ending, and I'm not a nihilist. One that I don't even know if you would call it nihilistic, but utilitarian. The utilitarian wins, and whether or not that is what it doesn't matter if that's what Alan Moore believes or who drew it, Dave Gibbons. It's not necessarily maybe what they believe, but it's what they're communicating, right? The utilitarian wins. The person who believes in a strict moral code ultimately just begs to be killed. And everybody else just sort of gives up. And I don't see that for me, I don't see that as something I enjoy experiencing this again. It gives you something to think about, but the answers, I don't think that all media should have to have answers, but the question should at least have possible resolutions. And what Alan Moore was trying to do was deconstruct the superhero, right? That's a tenet of postmodernism. He's a postmodernist. He was trying to deconstruct these superheroes and show how they were, just fascists and all this stuff. A misunderstanding of what fascism is, by the way. Now, after Watchmen and everything became postmodern deconstructions of the superhero, and everything's edgy, we describe it as that 90s edge, right? Like Savage Dragon or all of this stuff. And we're gonna deconstruct the superhero. Look at us, aren't we cool? And then everybody today has grown up on nothing but postmodernism. So they don't believe in the classic ideals of self-sacrifice for others, protecting others, the rule of law, that criminals ought to be punished. There's such a thing as personal responsibility. All of those things have not been taught to them because those things were taken away from superheroes in a wide way. And now all of these writers grew up on those types of comics, and this is the result. All right, let's see. Sam Hamm made the Batman 89 pretty good, I think. Made that Batman 89. Is that a comic? I don't know what you're talking about. The movie from 1989, the Batman movie? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. Batman Returns not as good. That's true. But Rorschach had a final ace in his sleeve in the end. But it's left open-ended, right? It doesn't change the fact that Rorschach begged to die. It doesn't change the fact that he thinks that it's futile. Yes, his journal does get sent, but there's no guarantee that message will go out. What evidence do you have that the media within that world, or thinking about the modern world, would report on something like that? Or that it would be believed, even? It's not... Your interpretation is that will then result in reporting on it. But reporters aren't some, are they just some champions of the world that are going to report on this? I think that's an assumption. I don't think there's any evidence in the story to think that. Let's see. And let's look at the final page here. This is who you're putting your trust in? This guy? Do you think that these editors are moral, upstanding people that are going to allow this guy, even if he finds this compelling or truthful or wants to investigate it, that they're going to run with the story? This guy just wants to eat his lunch. He's more concerned with his own self-preservation. There's no guarantee that this guy's going to report on anything. Just because he's got the comedian shirt on, is that it? All right. Yeah, I'm against it. First of all, I refuse to say that to acknowledge the existence of some class called transgender women. I'm a bigot, apparently. No, it's a destruction of women's sports. Let's be completely honest. Let's be completely honest. But it's not what we're talking about today. What are we saying? I think I enjoy the messages of many movies that are good, and I dislike the messages of many movies that are good. It's not necessarily the message of something that makes it worthwhile. Right? We don't have to have complete agreement with something, or at least some sort of perceived idea of neutrality, which is a myth. Neutrality is a myth. We're talking about basically art and culture and how the two interact. So it's not necessarily totally out of bounds. But, I mean, I think, Chris, that you kind of could perceive my opinions on things. I think you kind of know where I'm going to go most of the time. I think I'm fairly predictable. In terms of the basis of my morality, not much has changed since I was a young man. All right, so let's see. Comics, movies, and games, and oh my. Lions and Tigers and Bears. Says, well, heck, I like it talking about Zack Snyder. Lots of great action, Supes, and Batman look great, and I enjoy that Batman v Superman takes the character seriously, unlike the jokes per minute MCU. It's one of my big problems with MCU, which we've talked about many times before, is nothing's taken seriously in how it's presented. I think there's some truth that not all of life is just brutal misery or like a super serious melodrama. But at the same time, the constantly cracking jokes and all of this stuff, it gets a little old when there's no separation in terms of all of them are basically interchangeable visually. There's nothing visually that distinguishes them. There's nothing thematically that distinguishes those movies. It basically comes down to, does the plot have enough connecting elements to other things? And is there enough characterization behind the jokes or aside the jokes that makes this movie good enough? Or is it a tight enough thriller? And I think that there's a place for other types of films that are adapted with superheroes in them. Let's see. Did Watchmen get incorporated into the larger DC universe, or is it a separate continuity? I don't know exactly how it's integrated, but it is somehow because of Doomsday Clock, Dr. Manhattan merged the timelines or some nonsense and stupidity. Just stop. They just need to stop. They just need to stop. Yeah, Doomsday Clock. There you go. But as far as, I'm willing to comment basically on this thing that Chris asked earlier. What are your thoughts on the idea of transgender athletes competing in women's sports? Idiotic. Insane. I guess call me a TERF. I don't, in that sense, I definitely think that's the destruction of women's sports and puts them at a severe disadvantage. But moving on, we're eventually going to get to the actual topic of today. But I think all of these things kind of play into it that we've talked about so far, which is why I haven't, did my thing where I connect back around to the thesis statement of the title of the program. Let's see. Games, Movies, and Comics R Us says Jeff Johns wrote Wonder Woman 1984 and made some very strange choices for that film. In your opinion, yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to waste my time with that. This is why, people, I'm so excited for this movie or this. Mostly, I'm just dreading new movies coming out, and hardly ever am I really excited for them anymore, or really looking forward to them, because I have no confidence that people will actually do good things. And then I wait and I don't go see things on opening night. The one time I saw something on opening night, a superhero movie, was X-Men 3. And at the end of it, I think it was in high school. When did that come out? This is before I was as pretentious as I am now with films. Yeah, 2006. I was in high school still when that came out. 2006. And, oh, thank you, Edwin. And when it debuted in the theater, right? I was there opening night, and I stood up at the end of it and I said, "Wow, this movie!" I shouted at my top of my lungs, but I shouted, "This movie sucked," because it was a bad movie compared to the other two, with themes and a serious tone and everything. It just felt so bland, so dumb. We finally got Wolverine fighting people, but it wasn't worth it. So I don't go to movies opening night. I generally wait to see what the reviews are. I go on to something like pluggedin.com to see what the content is. Is it something I want to go see? Something I want to invest my money in? And generally it's not. So I still haven't seen Captain Marvel. The only reason I saw Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok were because they were on Netflix. It's the only reason I've seen them. But why would I go give my money to Disney? Willingly just directly give my money to them. I don't want them to make more crappy movies. Games, Movies, and Comics R Us says, yeah, I am honestly in the same boat, mostly dreading new movies coming out because they're more likely to be disappointing than not. Yeah. I think there's cause to hope that some people are serious about making an alternative productions, but you need those people to be good. And the reality is that conservative media or people that would be generally making films outside of the Hollywood system often don't do things at the same level of craft. And so those things can be bad. But I think there's hope to think they are. Joker got so much hate by the media, and they made it seem like it endorsed violence when it didn't. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just didn't have much desire. I've always bought into the idea that the Joker's origins should be mysterious. I don't care where the Joker came from. I think of him as this force, this chaotic force, right? This this anarchist, and to know his origins or why he became this like almost like this hedonistic anarchist, I don't think it enhances the stories told with the character. But if you like it, that's fine. All right, so how did Disney and children's media destroy the world? That's the question. That's the thesis of today. The idolatry of the self. What does that mean? How did Disney and the children's media destroy the world? That's the question of today. Am I being hyperbolic? Of course. Of course I am. But Disney has a lot of influence, and it's not just merely now, right? Disney has that influence even before they were the biggest media corporation in the world. Right, Edwin? And see, this is what I say, like veterans, they're like automatically 10 years older than everybody else, because the military ages you at least a decade, depending on how long you're in it, possibly more, over your actual age in years. So, I mean, you're really like pushing 60 in terms of what the military did, you know. If you're going to be a baller, be a hyper baller. That's right. I'm talking about the company as a whole. Basically, especially since the 1980s. Because believe it or not, at one point, Disney was not obsessed with the same kind of Disney ethic mentality. Their movies do have this, going back, but this idea of what I've called the Disney ethic, basically believe in yourself, that all goodness stems from inside of your heart, your personal feelings, and what you believe in your heart to be true is what's true and good. That's the if one thinks about the striving message of what we might call post Ron Miller Disney. That's especially the driving force of it, right? Believe in yourself. That's the they didn't want to present some sort of controversial topic, right? They don't want to be controversial. And so they try to distill everything down to like, well, you can't possibly object to this ethic of just believe in yourself and have confidence in yourself. But that's a bad message. The Bible says that the heart is deceitfully wicked, right? The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I don't believe that your heart is the source by which that you should make your moral judgments all the time. And by telling people that it's within them to determine your morality, instead of looking to some objective standard, well, then morality can shift depending on how you feel. And so we see the ramifications of this. It's really influenced by postmodernism and by this progressive leftism that tells you, oh, just believe in yourself. Just whatever you self-actualize and determine for yourself is what will be the reality. And you can't know truth except for as it relates to whatever your dogmatism is. Edwin says, don't believe in yourself. You're likely terrible. Exactly. It reminds me of Mike Rowe. You guys know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. Basically, he's on like a campaign to tell people not to follow their passions. Remember, like, there's this luxury, I think, that some baby boomers and even the generation before them experienced after World War II with this huge boom in industry and jobs and education. especially in the 50s and 60s. And then as the 70s ended, that other countries were starting to compete industrially, and America didn't have quite as an advantage. There was all kinds of laws changes and trade things that happened that shifted jobs overseas, and there's all reasons for it. But growing up with the mentality of, well, you go to college and then you just follow your passion. If you want to be an artist, go pursue that. And, or, you want to do this, go pursue that. But Mike Rose on that campaign to tell people, don't follow your passions, right? Don't follow your passions. Don't just look for something. So, this is what I love doing. I just love doing this, and this is the only thing I could possibly do to be happy. How do you know that? Have you experienced every type of job out there? See, Edwin has quoted Romans 7:18, "For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good I find not." Right? The idea that Paul is struggling with in Romans 7 is this idea of the struggle between his sinful flesh and his new heart. But he recognizes that his sinfulness still dwells bodily in him, right? This idea that he can't just shrug it off, even as a new man, new creation in Christ. He still struggles with it. And what does Romans say before that, right? Right, in Romans chapter 3. "No one is righteous, no, not one. No one understands, no one seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become worthless. No one does good, not even one. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. In their paths are ruin and misery, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes." And the Disney ethic is telling those people to trust in themselves, to believe in themselves, that they determine what right and wrong is based on their own passions, their own strong emotions. That's the Disney ethic. So why do I say it's destroyed the world? Well, one only has to look at the world. What do you believe? What does your heart tell you is true? I hate this lag, man. It's killing me. Absolutely killing me. But we'll survive. My main man. I need a shortened version of this, man. This name's too long. Sometimes GMC, RS, still too long. Sometimes I am too tired for my passions. All right, Edwin, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate that. We do this quite a bit, so feel free to come back and interact. You've been definitely a great part of the interaction tonight, throwing out some good things. So, anyways, Not Nigel says, "Sometimes I am too tired for my passions. Like I haven't made a video for my channel in days." Right? It's hard to be passionate all the time, and I've had a job doing my quote unquote passion, the thing that I really wanted to do. And I thought this would be, if I had this job, I'd never work a day in my life. Get a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And boy, did it sure feel like work. Boy, was it just as much work as anything else. Boy, did I face all the issues that other jobs had. So this idea of just following yourself and in which you determine what right and wrong, it's actually idolatry of the self. What is the first sin? It's idolatry. And you say, well, it's nonsense. It's disobeying God. You ate this apple you weren't supposed to. Well, what's the sin behind that, right? Because how is Eve tempted into it? It's not just like the allure of the flavor of the apple. The serpent doesn't come to her and says, look at this apple tastes really, really good. And this is this is the best tasting fruit you've ever had. Puts all their fruit to shame. No, that's not what he says. God doesn't want you to become like him. He wants to reserve this knowledge of good and evil for himself. But if you eat this, you get to determine. You'll be like God, knowing good and evil. But not just knowing it in the sense of understanding what it is, because they already knew. They already had a sense of morality and what good and evil was. God had already given them a law that they were bound to. They were bound to follow. It's experiential. It's determination. It's knowing, right? What does it mean to know? It's not just, in this case, not just knowledge, but experiential. It's action. Oh, man, it's starting to get jittery again. Terrible. Anyways, yeah, it is a bold take. It's a very bold take. Yeah, I know what you were saying. So how does it affect the world today? Well, we have this society that is grappling with the destruction of culture wrought by the postmoderns, who didn't really want to build anything. Well, they just wanted to critique it or deconstruct it or read their own meaning into it. And so you have all these things like, gender theory and queer theory. And it's a queer reading of this. I was like, what, did the author intend that? Well, no, it doesn't matter what the author intended. It matters what you read into it and what you determine. And okay, all right. Okay. And they're grappling with this. And at the same time, they don't actually believe this stuff. So they've rejected their modernist forefathers, progressive, modernism or more modernist philosophies, things like fascism, like legitimate fascism. We're not talking about what they call fascism today, but the idea of fascism, which is like that the individual doesn't exist and his rights don't exist, but that the smallest organism is the state, basically the community. And so the community determines what is good and what is right, and everything is determined by the community and not the individual, which in practicality is the same as socialism and communism, the outgrowth of it. But those things, socialism, communism, fascism, all those modernist views that believed that there were absolutes in the world and were based around that idea. Then they took the postmodernism and they incorporated it. You have Gene Roddenberry exactly as a modernist. We talked about that earlier, Star Trek. You take those ideas of, although Gene Roddenberry is more of a classical liberal than a socialist, in a sense, at least in the interpretation you get from Star Trek. You meld that with the postmodernism, where now they can't determine what is truth, right? But they're still trying to operate as socialists or communists within this framework of not knowing what truth is. And so then they arrive at the position they are today, where they're so dogmatic about what they can't know to be true, because they still hold to this axiom of you can't know truth, right? When they're pushed on their philosophy, these people often will go back to this idea of, oh, you can't know anything to be true. I believe that the preponderance of the evidence, or, I think it, I don't know things. I just, believe in the greater probability of something. Or, okay. So they're always being pushed on this stuff. And they confess, I don't believe in the truth. I don't believe that you can know things to be true. And they fall back on that. But at the same time, they're really dogmatic about what they don't know to be true, because they can't be consistent with a postmodern worldview. You can't. It's based on inconsistency. That's kind of the point of it, is that it's, in some ways, it's based on this idea of diametrically opposed forces and ideas. Knowing this axiom, if you will, this philosophical statement that you can't know anything to be true. Well, is that true? That I can't know anything to be true? Well, that's silly. No, it's pointing out the error in your logic, because laws of logic exist. They're real. They don't have physical existence, but they are, in fact, real. So you have these new people that have grown up with all these postmodernists and communistic ideas, and they want to meld them with all of these newfound beliefs that they've derived from inside themselves. I believe that I'm this. Oh, my word, the lag is so bad. It's killing me. Absolutely killing me. There's not much else to do at this point. No fixes. All of my usual things that correct the lag are gone away. But hopefully it's still watchable. Hopefully it's not too bad. So close out of all other programs that are running in the background. Oh, already done. Your new favorite worst movie? Go on. I mean, we're talking about culture. It's not really a derailment because I can just bring it back round. I can bring it back round. Let's know. What's your new favorite worst movie? And then I have something to say. So while you're posting that, I'll say I was watching Red Letter Media, one of the Red Letter Medias from, I think it was a more recent one, their Best of the Worst, and they showed a clip from a movie, and I was like, Frankie Schaefer, no way that guy made this, no way Frankie Schaefer made this. Sure enough, Frankie Schaefer made a terrible movie. He said, well, who's Frankie Schaefer? Well, some of the things I've been saying lately have been derived from Francis Schaeffer and some of the things that he wrote in the 60s and 70s. So Francis Schaeffer was a Christian philosopher, presuppositionalist, and he wrote a lot about culture, and he wrote some famous books and made some famous things. And his son was Frankie Schaefer, who helped make some of his films later. And then now Frankie Schaefer's a crazy person, but he made a terrible movie that was on Best of the Worst, and I caught it, and I was like, no way. I looked up, sure enough, he was the director of that film. I was surprised by that. Contact with Matthew McConaughey. Don't you mean Contact with Jodie Foster? Jeez. Misogynistic. Not even giving Jodie Foster her credit as the lead in that movie. That's a well-received movie. Based on a book by everybody's favorite atheist, Carl Sagan. How could you hate that? Probably because you're a misogynist. But here's your main man, Carl Sagan, and his ilk. They're also responsible for some of this. I haven't seen it in a long, long time. I have no desire to. But they also have something, because this new this atheistic mentality that Carl Sagan had, and these other people that, all that we can experience and know is derived from our observations of the world, and there can't be any kind of rule out any kind of supernatural ideas, and the Bible isn't true, and you can't have. So where does morality come from then? Where do we derive our morality from? If you follow Sagan and the people that are much of his mind, you can't have anything. There's no philosophy. The cosmos is nothing but blind and pitiless indifference. Right? Blind and pitiless indifference. I mean, he didn't say that, but that's the idea. Blind and pitiless indifference. That was Richard Dawkins said that. There is no deeper meaning to the world. Therefore, all there really is force. And there's no morality behind this force because ultimately it's just matter bumping into matter without any worth, without any inherent worth. So it doesn't matter. So all it is might makes right. So, oh, come now. I'm a scientist, sir. Okay, well, what you're advocating for, this atheism, results in no consistent morality. And it's like, well, whatever I determine to be right is right. Much like the Disney ethic. Believe in your heart. Believe what you think is right. Well, my thoughts, my beliefs are, according to that, there's no moral basis, no moral judgment on them, according to Carl Sagan or Richard Dawkins or that theory of the world. All there is matter. It's chemical reactions happening in my brain. I can't control that. My brain just happens to fizz that way. It just happens to chemically react that way. Oh, that's degrading the actual biological processes. Oh, is there beauty? Is there beauty? What is beauty? How do you judge whether something's beautiful? Are you saying I'm degrading the biological processes? They have worth? It's all random chance. Time and chance. That's all it is. There's no worth there. So the result is they can't consistently condemn anything. These same atheists, like Sam Harris, want to come out and be like, well, we should be wary of Islam. It's like, why? Might makes right, dude. Might makes right. Believe in yourself. That's the place to start. I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. Who are you to judge, Sam Harris? Who are you to judge, Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens? Actor and comedian Stephen Fry from England, he was asked one time, well, what if you get up to heaven and you have an audience with God? What would you say to him? And he says, cancer in children? How dare you, sir? What? As if there's some moral good or bad? How does Stephen Fry determine that cancer in children is bad? Because it causes pain? Is that your threshold? That if it causes pain, it's bad? It hurts to work out. That's why Stephen Fry doesn't do it. He's a big old fat guy, right? There's lots of things that hurt that are beneficial. Tim Dale's better, dude. Or Jim Dale, rather. Jim Dale is better. Over here in the United States, Jim Dale was the narrator of the Harry Potter books, and I think he does a way better job than Stephen Fry. But I do like Stephen Fry in the Jeeves and Wooster show. That's good. With his good friend Hugh Laurie, also known as House MD. So basically, these people, these modernists, and then these postmodernists, they created this world where everyone believed that, oh, just believe in your heart. Just believe in yourself. What you think and what you believe in your heart, that determines what is right and wrong. You get to determine it for yourself. There is nothing outside of yourself to look to. There's no absolutes. You can't know. You can't know what's right and wrong. And they try to come up with some system, and of course it fails. Because it can't be consistent. It's inconsistent. And they arrive at this point where we are now, where we have the totalitarian tolerance. The fascism, if we use their language, of tolerance. We must be tolerant of these people believing in themselves. Well, I believe in my heart that we shouldn't destroy women's sports. That we shouldn't put them at a physical disadvantage. I believe in my heart that we should allow women to compete against women so they have a chance to win. There's a video you can find on YouTube. I won't pull it up now because it's probably going to cause the lag with too many operations running on the PC. But in it, you will see a relay race. And this country decided, for some odd reason, to have it's a mixed, women and men relay race. They decided to have the woman as the anchor, and she starts out well ahead because the man ran before that. He got a big advantage on the women then. So by the time she gets handed the baton, there's a large advantage that she has. So she starts out well ahead of everyone and is caught by nearly everyone. And I believe finishes outside of the medal winners, right? Because she's at this is one of the fastest women in the world. She's on a relay team competing in international games. She's super fast. She's probably faster than me, but she's not faster than I could be. Probably, right? Or the fastest men could be. We know that it doesn't mean that they can't possibly win, but it's a clear disadvantage. It's a clear disadvantage. They're advantaged by being physically male. There are characteristics that exist that are different than women. And we ran out on the rail now. All the hot takes today. Men and women are different. Yikes. I just need a nickname, man. It's too long. I'm not saying Stephen Fry isn't a good actor. I'm just saying, as an atheist, he's inconsistent in his moral proclamations about what he would say to God. Like he can make moral pronouncements on God. Oh, okay, man. All right. Where does this morality come from you espouse? Well, I mean, do no harm. Why? What makes your physical harm, if I enjoy inflicting physical harm, which I do not, but if I enjoyed inflicting physical harm on somebody, what makes that any worse than anything else? Or why is it better to not inflict harm? If that's what brings me satisfaction, in my heart, I believe that hurting others is how I can truly express myself. Harming others, injuring them, that's how I can truly be myself. In my heart, I believe that that's who I was meant to be. That's who I was born to be. That's how I was born. Therefore, you must accept. Anyone else here have Irish ancestry? Happy St. Patrick's Day, by the way. I don't know. St. Patrick's Day, never heard of it. First one in a decade, I haven't felt like getting drunk. Doug to Naples streaming. Oh, everybody better go over there. What's he talking about? Back in the day, I'd stream snipe him. Oh, Trump catches the media in another lie. Sometimes I watch his streams. Go over there and post my link, Hervoge. As you are also a mod there. I don't mind him talking about that stuff, but I'm not going to just spend all day watching it. I can only take so much. I know you're a mod there. That's why you post my link, and I'm very grateful when you do. But, if I'm reading the news, I don't need to hear more about it. Like, oh, jeez. Pause. Yeah, HG can be a mod on my channel anytime he wants to be. Lag? It's because I open a new window. Ridiculous. Can't even open a new window. Ugh. And it's not the internet, because we could stream. They could be watching a movie, streaming a movie on their phone, and I can upload something lickety split, or download something onto my computer lickety split. It's not the internet speed. Soon this will be rectified, hopefully, and it will be a thing of the past. That's the hope. That's the hope. Hopefully it will correct itself here. Yeah. So when you think about this Disney ethic, right? How did Disney exactly destroy the world in children's movies? How do they destroy the world, right? Well, by telling everyone to believe in themselves. They're the determiner of what is right and wrong. And it's still ongoing today. That's still the main message of anything. Well, now it's sometimes even more explicitly stupid. But that's the idea, right? Oh, just believe in yourself. That's the message. It's such an innocent message. Is it really? We do. We do have the money now for a new computer. So we will be getting one. No, it's not. I mean, yeah, Streamlabs isn't the greatest, but it's not Streamlabs. Because, yeah. But it will be investigate on the new computer. I will be investigating the best way to stream everything and get it all set up nice. That's the idea, the hope. Which will probably mean, I don't know. I hate this. Like, using the green screen isn't ideal because the lighting off of this shiny bad boy right here messes everything up. And you get that little movement around it because the light is reflecting off of this shininess. Whereas otherwise it would look fairly decent. There's enough light basically lighting me, and then there's separate lights that are lighting the green screen, and that's how you create the separation. So, idolatry of self. You determine what is right and wrong. Don't look outside of yourself for any truth. And then you have all of these theories that come in, like that destroy things like personal responsibility or working hard. Call those white supremacy. Those are systematic. Those are parts of the systemic racist system. Systemically racist system, and therefore need to be abolished. Personal responsibility. Well, no, it's not their fault. They were discriminated against. That's why they broke into Target and stole Legos. It's a white guy. White guy stealing those Legos. Why was he? Why I thought? How was he discriminated? How was he discriminated against? Oh, he identifies as a turnip. Oh, okay. That makes sense. You know, I know it's also not the internet speed, is that if I use stupid StreamYard, of course there's no problem. Because StreamYard is just uploading information. It's not running a program on the computer. And that's what StreamYard is doing. Or Streamlabs, rather. Okay. What else? I think we've kind of talked about a ton of things here. And we've related them back to the main thesis, the main idea. Is there anything anybody else wanted to comment or say? Now I open it up to questions. I open it up to the floor to questions before I leave, or comments. It's all right if you don't have questions or comments. It's okay. I'm not upset. If you guys have not, I would recommend you Importance of the Indie Studios of the 80s. My question is, do you like the Mega Man video game series? I'm not a huge fan of it because I'm not very good at them. They're pretty difficult. So I'm not I'm not a fan of them. Or do I like them? I guess so. Yeah, I like them, but I'm not like super into them. So the importance of the indie studios of the 80s. Well, like indie movie studios? What are we talking about? What are we talking about here? Elaborate. Elaborate. Now, hashtag not all children's movies. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about a movie that had an actual halfway decent, sometimes moral message. And I'm about to go get it. So wait. Right, so we've got a movie here. We've got a movie here that is not, its primary message, I don't think, is not the Disney ethic, right? It's not the Disney ethic. What is it? What is it? This Despicable Me? It's Despicable Me! Apparently the minions are just green enough. There we go. They sort of... Despicable Me. So, come now, sir. Well, think about it. Here you have a criminal, right? Selfish, vain. And then he tries to use these children, right? Tries to use these children to commit his crimes. But then what happens? He's changed. He becomes a true father to these children. He reforms himself, right? He's no longer a criminal. Then you have the second one, which message is, oh, these girls, they need a mother. A mother would be good. Have a mother. It's not the only message, but it is one. And by the end of this series, you have a nuclear family. A mother, children, a father. The importance of sacrificing for others. Doing what is right. Despicable Me, based. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. Of course, there's little hope that those things will maintain. That they'll go forward. Especially like Disney... They don't own this studio, but Disney buying out Fox. Like, I don't have any hope that the differences in a Fox animated feature, like the Peanuts movie, will be maintained in a Disney. No. So Despicable Me, if you think about it, does not contain that general Disney ethic, but has a different moral message. And it can do so because the protagonist, right? The protagonist here is a bald white male, so he can have flaws. That's allowed. Oh, hello, Gary Shipman. $25 left for that 100%. What are you talking about? Let me see. Oh, 8 days to go. That project's going to fund. Man, how do you follow all of these? How do you know about all these? Doesn't look like my kind of thing. That's what I want to know. If you guys are not, I imagine that most of the people that watch us are subscribed to Gary Shipman's channel. But I highly recommend it. I enjoy it over there. His live streams and some of the videos he's been doing lately. I really enjoyed seeing that news clip. The clip from the news that Gary shared the other day. You always save them projects, son. Do you have like a spreadsheet? Where do you keep them all? Just like in a folder, like a favorites folder on your browser? But yes, Gary Shipman. Follow him. It was a very interesting video. I, for one, was intrigued by it. Lady Vixen agrees. It was interesting to hear what your teacher said. I think your teacher sort of like, she basically said like, I believe he has the skills to do whatever he'd like in art, and knowing your ability to do different mediums and different styles and everything. I think she was on the right track. All right, what else? What is another movie that doesn't have the Disney ethic? I don't know. It's just a general thing. I call it the Disney ethic. But one of the big perpetrators is, of course, the PBS show Arthur, which is woke nonsense nowadays. But they've always been purveyors of the Disney ethic, right? It comes from the heart. Believe in yourself, for that's the place to start. If that's the basis on which to believe things, then you can't make any dogmatic moral pronouncements, and yet they want to. Ironically, they're the most dogmatic. Speed Racer by the Wachowskis had some great family values. Somehow. Hey, they're still married to women. There's still men married to women. At least last time I looked. I don't really follow them, to be honest. They made 1.5 good movies. They made The Matrix, which was great, and then they made Speed Racer, which is at least half a good movie. At least somewhat enjoyable. But in general, like, some of these things, and that's not to say that they only have the message. Like, the Disney ethic is not the only theme in these films, but often it is the basis by which these characters save the day. Right? This is the moment where they say that they believe that they can accomplish great things. They believe that a little tiny bunny rabbit can be a cop in a world full of giant animals, and that's just going to be okay. What happens if that bunny rabbit is on a call with a wildebeest officer, and that wildebeest officer goes down, gets shot? How does the bunny rabbit pull him out of harm's way? This is stupid. It's stupid to start like bringing these logical things. Oh, I'm trying to have logic in my Zootopia movie, but at the same time, this idea of like, oh, believe in yourself, Officer Hop, and you too can be a police officer. But that movie that didn't age well, right? That movie where cops are the good guys. Uh-oh. Not very forward thinking of you, Disney. So they were stuck in the last iteration of the Disney ethic, where it's like, people can accomplish whatever they want. They're great. The reporter contacted you the other day with it. That is awesome, Gary. Wow. That's so cool, man. That's pretty neat. What if Judy Hopps kept her knee on the back of a suspect's neck? Well, let's not get carried away here. Probably wouldn't. I mean, depends. Are they like an amoeba or something? It might be an issue. There's tons of other movies where we could poke holes on, but the Zootopia is a good example of the last iteration of the Disney ethic. Now they have to incorporate the new dogma, and so they won't make another movie. They won't make the same mistake about having a movie with cops, right? Because people did try to cancel Zootopia, right? Zootopia is all about like tolerance and inclusion, and they can't promote it because it's about cops. Stupidly. Speaking of cops, I watched Dread last night, which if you haven't seen and you want to watch a hyper-violent, gritty adaptation of Judge Dredd, it's one to watch. They canceled Paw Patrol, right? Because cops are bad. Because cops represent this systemically racist system and must be abolished. The whole system must be abolished. It's not gonna. You think it's going to stop at cops? No. There's inequalities in firefighting. They'll eventually want to cancel them too. They'll want to cancel all government and reform it in their image. So Dread. Wouldn't that be a terrible situation? You're in this. Well, where basically it's like anarchy, except that there is a group of people that are judge, jury, and executioners. And they're officers of the law. They're the judge. And they determine the guilt of the people and either throw them into a prison or execute them. Well, what a terrible situation where that's the result of everything, right? People say, it's fascist. It's an example of the fascism of law and order. People that want to enforce laws. It's like you created this dystopia where there's super violence. And they want to make an immoral equivalence between the justice system enacting punishments on people who have violated the rights of others, harmed others, and the violence of the criminals themselves. They want to draw a parallel between those things. It's a false equivalence. How do you say that? How can you say that? On what moral basis do you make this judgment? Well, I say, I'm a Christian, and I look at the Bible, and what does the Bible say? Well, the Bible not only prescribes penalties for certain crimes that include death, but also it provides justification by which people do not get the death penalty or do not get charged with the crime of killing somebody, of murder, based on something like protecting themselves. So if the Bible makes those distinctions, I can say consistently with my worldview that not all force is evil, and I have moral justification by which to make that claim. I don't understand that sentence. Jalapeno milk. Finally, Doug finished his stream. His dad dropped in for the final minutes. Oh, that's interesting. I for one, am glad for Doug to have expanded his audience. And this idea that, oh, I saw some person, and who will remain nameless, saying like, Doug, he doesn't really believe these things. He's just trying to become an e-celebrity or something. And it's like, what? The guy used to write for Breitbart. He's not exactly quiet. These aren't hot takes that he just came up with to get people to watch his show. It's something he's believed for a really long time. Oh, did he turn on super chats again? Because he didn't have them turned on, I don't think. I didn't think he had super chats turned on. So that must be a new thing that he did. Good. That's good. A lot of those people will super chat him and he'll get tons of money. And then he can make more comics. So, Dread. Is the violence that Dread... Now, I don't agree with the political, a criminal justice system that the investigating officer is also the judge. New books launching in 6 months. Nice. Was he going to do one a year then? Now? That's probably for the best. That way he won't kill himself. Obviously, the criminal justice system as represented in Dredd is not one I would advocate for. But the idea that the violence against criminals that Dredd is doing, his executing criminals, is the equivalent, the moral equivalent of their violence against other people. It's like, wait, what? Huh? Who? These people torturing people throughout the movie? Threatening torture? Profiting off of the suffering of others? Murdering people? In cold blood? That any justification? Other than their own corruption or evil? Desires? Their violence is the same as an officer of the law protecting himself? Or in this case, a judge rendering a verdict and carrying it out? Yeah, but it's made by people that that think that he's representative of this fascist system that they're protesting against. These idiotic Brits that thought like, oh, it is a pastiche, a satire. And he's a fascist. And you get all these people like these wannabe intellectuals on YouTube. And the real message of Dredd. How Judge Dredd is actually about this. It's like, okay, man. Helping says Dredd has a reason for that system. Population was too dense to have a functioning court system. Too many people waiting for justice forever. Right. In the world, it makes sense, right? There's people living in these mega cities. There's not enough judges to go around. You have this basically an anarchy that these cops are trying to, that these judges are trying to operate within. So I think in the movie they say something like they're only able to respond to 6% of reported crimes. 6%. Where 100% of reported crimes are dealt with in some manner. Now, different departments and, sheriff's offices and sheriff's departments and police departments and everything, they all deal with them differently, right? So like there might be something that's basically like information received, they log it, they put it in there. Or it might be something like, oh, we're responding to this call, we're going to talk to this person. And 100% of it happens. 100%. But in that system, 6%, that's crazy. That's how understaffed they are in this huge mono city that goes from Boston to Washington, D.C., I think. It's a long way. For it to be one continuous city where everyone lives. Yeah, probably since he's getting new views like crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind when people have success based on moral, ethical things that they're doing. I don't watch all of Doug's political videos for sure, because I don't, like I said, I don't need to see the same news I'm seeing from another source, and I'd rather read it real quick and be like, okay, I get the gist, rather than watch a video about it. Judge Dredd. So it's a decent movie. It's pretty violent, but surprisingly not a bad movie. I'd have no confidence that anything they do going forward will be any good. I don't think there'll be another sequel with Carl Urban in it, or a TV show like they were planning. I don't think it's going to happen. Right. Okay. We've got 20 more minutes till it's been 2 hours. And then I'm going to end it at the 2-hour mark. So if you have anything else to say that you'd like to comment, like to hear my hot take on, go ahead and throw it up into the comments. Let me know. What can I give you a hot take on? What do you want to hear about today? What should I talk about in the meanwhile? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. You know what's funny is, male feminist Joss Whedon made a film that's in a series that is, its themes are very much an exploration of libertarian or classically liberal themes. But I don't know if he still is. I mean, after everyone's trying to cancel him. But he's an SJW. And he doesn't believe in these things. Doesn't believe in freedoms. But he made Firefly and Serenity, where the major themes of the film are trying to have freedom from an oppressive regime. What they don't realize is that in their stories, the government is usually the bad guy, right? But they love the government. And then what they don't realize is that, well, also it's freedom from the culture, that the culture is trying to impose on you. Everyone around trying to impose some sort of thing on these people, and they're rebelling against it. All right, Canon Films. I know very little about Canon Films. These independent movie producers of the 80s made some good films, but they were also based around the idea of schlock a lot of the time. They're based around the idea of not necessarily making good movies, but movies that will sell. Not necessarily what's a good product. So you have a bunch of breasts and nudity and things, and you're going to have a bunch of violence and a lot of this stuff, and it not necessarily a good story, but are people going to come to this movie to be titillated or to see violence? Not to say they didn't put out good films, but then they devolve into that, and it doesn't really become about making a good product. And that should be, I think, the chief goal is to make a good product when you're making artwork. Do something good. Alpine Milk says nuclear allegory that is Godzilla. Valuable to a social justice-minded society. Can Big Monk have a slap fight with Lizard, or do we have a duty to only produce culture-changing material? Why not both? Why not both? No, you don't have a duty to only produce culture-changing material. You have a duty to be faithful to what is true and good and righteous. To true, good, beautiful, all of those things, right? You have a duty to portray things in a immoral things in a moral way. Things can be entertaining. They don't have to be a dry lecture about stuff. But by the very nature of telling a story about heroic sacrifice, about people being good representations of what it means to be a man or a woman, bravery, chivalry, honor, duty, all of these things that make for entertaining stories, can make for entertaining stories, those are culture-changing material. When they're not, when you don't have the poison pill of Disney, the Disney ethic, there to tell people, oh, just believe in yourself, right? But to tell people being true and good and righteous and being honorable and having a sense of duty is a good thing. Not everyone has to or should give some lecture about these things. Not everyone's meant to. That is true, jalapeno milk. Hello, Grandma Deb. No, it's not true. Of course, it's not true. But that's essentially what it is, right? And it's been that way for a long time. The culture, in no way, in the past 40 years, was painting. You know, the majority of bad guys in movies, like if you're making a movie about a terrorist plot, they took out, they were adapting like a Tom Clancy book about Muslim terrorists, Islamic terrorists, blowing up the Super Bowl with a nuclear bomb. They took it out and replaced them with neo-Nazis. There's also a Chuck Norris movie where these neo-Nazis are the terrorists, and neo-Nazis are responsible for it. I'm sorry, who carries out these terror attacks? Coordinated terror attacks? Most often? Is it the neo-Nazis? Are they a big problem in reality? Oh no? Oh, okay. So the media has been tripping over itself to portray things in non-offensive ways for a really long time. Oh, the bad guy can't be, he's got to be a white guy, white, rich businessman, or a member of the military. Because everybody knows the military are a bunch of fascists. So, yes, you can have a big monkey have a slap fight with a lizard, but if you just watch, I mean, it's sort of fun to just watch fighting, like, you know, in a movie when you just have this long fight scene, or to just watch somebody make a silly video of kaiju monsters fighting or something. But if there's no story, there's not a good story that's being told, there's not compelling characters or something that you're rooting for or against, not going to be worth watching. Jalapeno Milk says, I mean, the coordinated political response to Tucker Carlson was somewhat fascist. The military shouldn't be silencing the press, right? No, what do you do? I don't want to just use the term fascist like the modern way, but yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, I think those in a different world, those people would have been punished for basically political speech. It's not the job of these enlisted individuals or officers to justify the policies of the military. So I guess in a sense, if you're talking about the state controlling everything and denying the rights of the individual, but I don't think it's fascism. Or if we're defining fascism as like curtailing the rights of others, I guess so. But I don't want to use that in that manner alone. I want to talk about fascism like it really was, which is a different moral basis for the same ends as communism and socialism. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that word is. Right. Okay. A stratocracy, in a form of government headed by military chiefs. Well, even then they wouldn't say that. They wouldn't. What power do they wield outside of the military? Now, if they start to command people to go and do things, there's still some sort of checks and balances on them. There was that accusation leveled at the Trump administration when they first came in. Recall. These are individuals. Often, was it coordinated? Was there proof that's come out? Or was it progressive types that acted independently based on the culture that they're in now, and they're wanting to be given a hot take? I don't know. But the same accusation was leveled at Trump, right? Well, are we becoming led by military leaders because he was appointing these generals, right? But it's silent now about that kind of thing, about active military members, active, making political statements. Not allowed. Not allowed. You got Otis Stein. Did you? Does it look like this? Did it have something like this in it? Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. Yes. Originally, as I drew all these things on pieces of paper and inked them traditionally, except for the last page, I drew it all the way up to here, and this is where the story ended. This page. Here. These guys doing things right here. And then I added this page with its nice little moral message at the end, because I thought that would better fit a chick tract. To have a nice little moral message summing it up. And a lot of them kind of end that way, with so I thought it befitted it. It was a cool idea. I can't take... actually, I can't remember. I honestly don't remember if it was Skinny's idea to do it like that, or mine. I honestly can't remember. I'd have to go back and look at our communications. But it was completely conceived and written by me in terms of its story, and Skinny just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. I mean, it's not like it was some hot take. It's just silliness, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad you enjoyed it. And I mean, it's not mocking the idea of tracks, although I wouldn't agree with tons of things that Jack Chick said. And he would call some of my beliefs heresy. But it's just poking fun at the mostly the Dungeons and Dragons one. Yeah, that was fun to make. And it turned out well. Skinny had those printed, and then he put them all together. So those are handcrafted. So he had printed, and he got the sheets, and they cut them and folded them and stapled them all themselves. So Skinny put a lot of effort into that for what's basically just like a free little bonus comic. But I think it turned out well. All right, 6 more minutes, and then I end the stream, and then it's over to Gary Shipman's channel, where he'll be drawing a page of comic book work. Maybe? I don't know. Yeah. I think a lot of times when I'm doing these streams, I just sort of lose steam. I get to this point, and if there's not new people coming in with new questions or comments, I'm like, all right, I kind of talked about what I was going to talk about. Otherwise, I'm just repeating myself. But I think the idea that we're trying to get to today is that there are standards outside of yourself to look to. And this idea of just believing in yourself and determining what's right and wrong based on your heart. Just trust your heart. Believe in yourself. It's dumb. Thoughts on the Black Cauldron. So Gary Shipman says he's putting together the tightest artist edition right now, but he will be streaming 2 nights. There you go. Good to know. Be on the lookout for that. Hervoge says, thoughts on the Black Cauldron. I have it over there on DVD, the Black Cauldron. I don't know. I don't think the Black Cauldron has made it to Blu-ray. Let's look it up. Black Cauldron Blu-ray. That is not what I typed in. What the heck? Drawn and Quartered. I don't really watch it much anymore, to be honest with you. No, doesn't look like it exists. Yeah, I have it on DVD. It's okay. As far as Disney's low point, no. Disney's low point came with Chicken Little, Home on the Range, things like that. But Cauldron is not their best film ever, but it's definitely not their worst. I like it better. I'd rather watch it than I would Treasure Planet or Home on the Range. Oh, I doubt it. Because Gary uses those times to work on pages. And my belief, this is just my understanding of Gary, is that he'd rather spend that time drawing pages of the comic or working on the comic with those hours and not on Drawn and Quartered. That's my understanding. I don't want to speak for Gary. I did like Meet the Robinsons. I thought that was pretty good. It's sort of is in a transitionary period right there before they started to really like come back with some good ones. But Meet the Robinsons is pretty good. There you go. The only drawn and quartered is Ultimate Edition, which I have won. I've won that. Masters of the Universe. I don't know, it's up to Gary whether he wants to do it. I don't want to speak for Gary. But yes, I have won Drawn and Quartered Ultimate Edition. Totally legitimate win. A totally legitimate win that was in no way orchestrated by a voting block. I honestly did not expect to win that. I was like, oh man, this is my worst drawings I've done in a long time. And then I won. He-Man's before my time. And going back and watching it, I'm just kind of like, there was better shows. So, because it's just a few years before, when it was on TV, it was before I was watching television. So, not really my thing. I'm sure Kevin Sharp will do well. I also don't know what, just a bunch of people drawing Prince Adam, or is that his name, Prince Adam? Am I right about that? Or She-Ra? You should go draw. Yeah, Treasure Planet's not bad. Treasure Planet is not one that I say is bad. I would just rather watch The Black Cauldron. I like The Black Cauldron better. But Treasure Planet is, if you say so, jalapeno milk. Treasure Planet, I mean, it's Treasure Island in space. So that's a little, it's a classic story. Whereas something like Chicken Little doesn't have much to work with. And they definitely did not have a grasp of CGI at that time. It's a terrible looking film. Now, if you like Chicken Little, that's fine. Taste is taste. Personal taste. What you enjoy watching is fine. It's fine. You can like it. Just wrong. But Treasure Planet is not as bad as, say, Home on the Range, which I have, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest, I've not made it completely through. So I guess Home on the Range is worse than Chicken Little, because I have seen all of Chicken Little. But Home on the Range, we turned it on, and I said, okay, we'll see why this is so forgettable. I'm sure it's not very good. I couldn't stomach it, man. I was like, this is a movie you put out, Disney? This is the standard that you fell to? Something like this? It's horrible. It's not, it's bad. It's bad. So I don't feel like the commercial low point of Disney films might have been The Black Cauldron, but not artistically. What was the last hand-drawn animated movie? Winnie the Pooh. The newer Winnie the Pooh movie they made, which was okay. It was okay. I like Winnie the Pooh. I think the best Winnie the Pooh content is the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh from the late 80s, early 90s, that period. Some good stuff. High quality. High quality. All right. Any more questions or statements? A lot of this Disney ethic, by the way, and the reason why Disney has killed everything. Eventually I'll get through it, Gary. Eventually I'll watch the whole thing, but it was bad. Real bad. Home on the Range. What was I saying? A lot of this stuff was started by taking out Ron Miller, who and bringing in Eisner and Katzenberg. They made good stuff, don't get me wrong. But a lot of the seeds were planted right in that time period. And then they just got worse over time as they gave in to the mobs coming after them and demanding things. And, oh, well, let's be inclusive and let's be all this. And it's like, oh, let's just tell good stories and not worry about that stuff. Just let people tell good stories. And then Pixar came along and Pixar told good stories. They didn't worry about that stuff. And now it's going to change. I hate farms too. Terrible. Farms suck. Who do you want? Who do you got? Godzilla or Kong? Don't care. Godzilla. King Kong's a villain. I don't feel any sympathy for King Kong. He's a rampaging monster. Just as bad as Godzilla, but at least Godzilla like breathes some sort of like electric blue fire or something. It's got to count for something, right? It just disturbed him with their depth charge things they were setting off. He was just content to lay down at the bottom of the ocean. They got to come in and disturb him. Kong's like actively terrorizing people, demanding that they feed him sacrifices and such. Bad guy. Kong's a bad guy. Monkey is stupid. I agree. All right. That's it. 2 hours up. Don't forget to tune into Gary Shipman's stream later. Subscribe to him. Watch his newer videos. He just put out a video that has news footage where he was profiled on a California news station back in the day. And it's pretty interesting to see some of Gary's artwork from back then. Also, if you haven't seen my music videos, they're great. Everyone loves them. And nobody has ever hated them. So I'm sure you'll enjoy them as well. They're totally serious and totally meant to be taken seriously, and it hurts my feelings when people don't like them. So make sure you like them only. I take it very seriously. Very, very seriously. Those were meant as serious pieces of art. In no way.
Should have gotten a Grammy.
Yeah, they should have gotten a Grammy. Well, Grammys are stupid. If I want a Grammy, I'd throw it in the trash. If they ever tried to give me an award like that, one of these industry awards, I would go up on stage and be like, oh yeah, and I'd throw it on the ground and smash it and walk off. After I ripped them new ones about how immoral they are and evil. So obviously they'll never give me one because they'll just come back to these videos and be like, oh. One time he said he'd throw the Oscar on the ground and break it. And tell us how we're all evil. Yes, subscribe to me on Twitch. And if you so desire, in the description of this video, you will find a Patreon link. If the Patreon gets to $50, which right now it's at $1. If it gets to $50, I will be launching a new podcast to complement my other podcast I don't do. It will be interesting. It will be fun, and I think you guys will like it. But it doesn't get launched unless I can pay for the hosting. So $50 will pay for the hosting of both my current podcasts that I'm not doing anything with, and the new one. But if you guys go pay for the hosting by subscribing to my Patreon, supporting my great work, I'll know that you want me to do more of those podcasts. Totally voluntary, based on your own desire. We do have a supporter of the channel here who has supported my work monetarily in the channel right now. It's true, we do. I'll let you decide among yourselves who it was. All right, that's it. I'm done. 7 extra minutes. That's all you got. Well, 8 here in a couple of seconds, so I guess 8. Where's the Patreon link? Is it not in the description? Terrible. Terrible me. Don't have it in the description. Let me see. It's not in the description. I've been saying... Oh, wait, there it is. Yeah, it is. It is in the description. Ha! Proven right. Proven right. I appreciate it. For any support. All right, adios.